Welcome to part 6. So the 4 pieces have been cut in half, and these are the ends here that I don't need to face because these are already squared up. I never had to cut those. So I cut between here on the horizontal bandsaw, and you see it's a very nice cut. I'll probably face it just to get it nice and true, just to go maximum 110%, effort on this project. Same thing here. Also, this cut was also on the horizontal bandsaw, but because when these last 2 pieces were together as one and it was too short to do on the horizontal bandsaw, these were done on the vertical bandsaw. You can see the cut is a little bit rougher, so this might require more facing with the end mill. So I might have to take off a little bit more material to get these all faced up, but we'll take care of that now. So I'm going to be milling this piece, this face right here, but because it's all the way on the one side of the jaw in the vise, I'll put another piece here since it's the same size, but when I tighten them, I want to make sure both are tight and one is not slightly loose. So this is good, so we'll get started. That's looking good. It's a little rough. Might try to go another pass real slow, smooth it up, and we'll repeat this process for all sides we need to face. That feels a lot better, even has a little shine to it. So we'll go ahead, deburr the edges on the yellow wheel, and go from there. Face cut, nice and smooth, but I barely got the washer, the 2 flats with the end mill. Not by much, maybe 5/1000 I took off. But no worries, that's why we have the 2 bolts securing down our pieces of aluminum just to make sure they don't shift around at all. Still good, moving on. We're all faced up on both sides, and as you can see, we took out our 1/4" bolts because the dead space is about to be milled out. So before we can do our widening of our 1/8" slots, it's time for the dead space in each piece to go. So that's 9/16 of an inch by 9/16 of an inch, which is 562 thousandths. So I will see if I can load up. Maybe not all 4. I'm gonna do 2 at a time. If 2 can be clamped in the vise at the same time, we're gonna roll with it like this. So I'll set the camera here. We'll put some downward pressure on both of them on the 1 5/8" parallels. I'm checking, just double checking to see how flat they're sitting. This one's sitting level. And this one's sitting level. Both are nice and tight in the vise. Give it just 1 little hair extra. Okay, good to go. And we will swap out our 1/2" end mill for our 5/8" end mill so that we're slightly bigger than 9/16. That way we don't have to do 2 passes. We can just do 1, or we could do 2 passes, but make sure we have that extra coverage. So we'll start by running the end mill, touching it just to the very top of the piece. Then we'll shift the table over to the right, and then we'll crank the table up 562 thousandths. So right here is our hand crank for cranking the table up. And I'm gonna have to set you guys here while I set it to 0. And it's in increments of 100. Each turn is 100 thousandths, so I put a big Sharpie mark so it's easier to see once I've made a full turn. So So going 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, and 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, and we'll keep it at 60. We'll keep it at 2,000s under 9/16. Why not? And then we'll take the hand crank off so that there's no weight shifting the adjustment either way. And now I could crank the table this way so that the piece goes into the end mill, but then I risk the force of the end mill maybe cocking the piece and keep picking it up slightly. So what I'll do is I'll crank the table back this way, and I'll just do in and out cuts as I go in for a total of 9/16, 560, 2,000s, but I won't do it all at once. I'll just do maybe 100,000s at a time. And by doing that, I'll start by touching the end mill to the side of my piece, and that's how I'll zero it in. Started with the table forward and then shifted it back because I don't want to climb cut, because as the end mill is spinning this way, I want to feed the material into the rotation and not the opposite, because if it's spinning this way and I'm bringing the piece with rotation, then you could find yourself in a climb cut situation and it won't cut as good. And this is just the proper way to do it. And that is 9/16 by 9/16 cut out. And we'll do the same to the other four. No more dead space, and that's to show you why we had to have that dead space in there earlier with the drill and tap tool to bolt the two pieces together, the two halves. And then we could do the other drill and tap tool that will be a part of the finished piece, which it is, as you see here now. Everything in the correct order, in the correct sequence. Let's do the other four and move on. So another reason for using the end mill that's bigger than the surface area that you're going to be milling out is so that on the final pass back, you can clear up your two surfaces that look a little rough and smooth them out and not have to worry about trying to do that twice. You can just do it all in one go on the final pass. And that is a lot of chips. So we'll deburr the milled sides. And then the dead space is gone, and then we can, what is our next step? I believe it's time to bring back out the one non-broken end of the 1/8 inch end mill and unbolt these and lay them up in the same setting. So I messed up royally. We'll see if I can salvage this, but I'll show you why. So I'm getting ready to take the bolt out of this piece, my countersunk screw, when I realized the countersunk hole is on the wrong side. So let me take it out first. Okay. First time taking these two pieces apart. So, you know, since like what, part 2? Okay, so I got my two pieces apart. Now, I want the slots to be facing each other. And I'm about to widen them out with the 1/8 inch end mill. Now the problem is, this is how the piece is going to be bolted together in its final form. And you can see, I didn't think that far ahead, or I thought I was good. But I did the countersunk hole on the through hole on the wrong side. So this piece is a little over 1/8 of an inch thick. It's like 145 thousandths. So what I can do is I can try to run the countersink through this hole, but if I punch through, I might blow out the hole from the other side. But it's gonna be close, and I'm gonna have to do that for all of these. And that's where we're at. So that really sucks. But all I could do is just keep pressing on with the project. So let me open up the vise, because I still want to show these next steps. So my two halves I took apart, I'm gonna lay them on top of the parallels, and I'm gonna have them face each other. And I'm gonna run the end mill through both slots. And because I have them facing each other, these are gonna be the open ends of my slots. And that way I won't have to pick up the table or lower it, or raise or lower the quill with the end mill. And I can do everything in the same setting. So I'll give them a little bit of room between them. I'll go ahead and I'll tighten up the vise. Make sure they're both nice and tight. That's perfect. That's a small win there, but I have to figure out what I'm going to do about that countersunk hole. So I'll lower the quill down and put the 1/8 inch end mill in the valley of the slot. And what I'll do is I'll touch right to the bottom, lock the quill, and I'll carefully crank the table over. So now the end mill is in between the two pieces. And all I have to do, my depth is set. I don't want to go any deeper on these slots. I just want to go a little bit wider, so I'm going to go towards my holes, because I did that, plunged in that 5/16 hole with the 3/16 end mill in the last part. So I'm going to want to widen the hole the other way. That's why I only cut 9/16 out of my dead space, so I have some leftover room after I widen the slot. So I crank the table to the right to run the end mill through this slot, and then to the left, run it through this slot just to make sure everything's lined up. And now I'm ready to go. I set my in and out to 0, and I cranked it counterclockwise 20 thousandths to 180, which if you're going counterclockwise, you're bringing the table lefty-loosey out to you. Righty-tighty will push the table further away from you. success. Did not break the 1/8 inch end mill, so we'll keep going. I'm at about 145 thousandths right now. I'm gonna take a measurement with the calipers because I wanna get real close to 155 thousandths, which is the thickness of my key stock on the one side, because the depth is already set up for a little over that to account for the other side of the stainless key stock being 162 thousandths. Okay, success. We have opened up our slots to, I set it for another 12 thousandths, so a total of 157 thousandths, and got a little burr, so I'll clean those up. And you can see the stainless key stock is fitting on both sides, just barely. And if we have to, once I cut these into fourths, I can always sand them down on the sander there. All right, we made it this far. It's time to see if I can countersink through this without just blowing the hole out. That way my countersunk screw can go from this side on the correct side and then thread in to my other piece. Let's go. So as expected, it's opening up the idea of the hole a lot bigger, but as long as I have a countersunk area for the hole for the screw to sit in, then we can still save this piece. Oh, it's actually really close. Just a little bit more. I think that's got it. Look at that. Okay, I will take it. Thankfully, this is still gonna work out. We can continue on. So I put the key stock into each square hole that I made and then held it in there while I started the countersunk screws in each one, so that way everything could line up on all sides. Now you'll see that because of doing it backwards, not realizing it, my 3/16 end mill slot is split. So that is not going to work. So thankfully I thought of a new way to secure the brass hex to the bottom of this Catan City piece. Yes, we're making Catan, cellulose of Catan pieces out of aluminum for a purpose, which will be revealed, and it may not be revealed on this channel, but on perhaps another gaming channel that is out there on YouTube. So I have another way to secure the brass hex to the aluminum city, and we got the stainless steel roads. So stay tuned for part 7 when we wrap this up next video. So I'll stick my road in, a stainless piece. And right on the outside, I'll make a mark. And that's how I know how long to cut it. And I'll do that for each of my other 4 city pieces. I'm gonna take it out. That's how I know how long to cut it. I decided to cut the roads a little bit longer so they stick out, so you can actually grab them from the sides and pull them out. Trying to do anything with one hand with the other hand on the camera. That's why I need a head mount set up with the strap. A little GoPro around my forehead. There you go. Pull it out. And then it's a pretty decent fit. Put it back in. Okay, next step. Gotta do the tops for the cities. So now we bring in the 45-degree end mill.